Hi guys, hi everyone. My name is Sofia and I'm here with my colleague Aslhan. We created Ask the Expert activity to invite interesting guests and ask them about various marketing and sales topics. And today it's my pleasure to introduce Matthew Hunt. He helps B2B founders and CEOs create their LinkedIn content. Also, he shares some communication and demand generation tips. So, hi Matthew, how are you?
I'm good. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So today, let's talk about content on LinkedIn, and I'd like to ask you, Matthew, a very simple and clear question on the one hand, and but on the other, people often struggling with this topic. So could you please share with us three tips for those who just starting to develop personal brand on LinkedIn?
Sure. Yeah. If I think I was getting started, the first thing I would do is I would figure out who are sort of the top 100 influencers in the marketplace that I want to, get a foothold on through hopefully building a personal brand in. And so building lists, they're not invisible, build a list. And the next thing you want to do is maybe go and look at what they're posting and look at what is working. And one of the best things you can do is just document that and track that initially as sort of step one. Step two is if you don't know how to write snackable content, I'll give you a formula to do that in a minute. But what's more importantly is that you find the things that are working and you just make a simple exercise to begin with, which is rewrite those posts. So in the
Mhm.
morning, schedule maybe 5 to 10 minutes. They're very short, they're snackable content. And the best thing you do is learning how to copyright is literally type out or handwrite out what someone wrote already, because you're going to start to spot and see the patterns of, oh, this seems to be what's working for that platform. Here's copywriting that's working. Here's what the trends are that people are talking about. Not that you can't zig when they're zagging and talk about something different or have a different opinion, but first, like, learn it. And then you're going to get familiar with all of their voices. Step two is before you start publishing after that, is to practice commenting. And
Yeah.
commenting and doing some social selling and building relationships with those dream 100 influencers is key, because if you are commenting regularly, they will get to know you and ideally like you and possibly even trust you, that when you post, they're more likely to reciprocate and do that. And not all comments and likes are created equal. Getting one like or comment from a big influencer has your ideal audience will get you a lot more reach on a social media platform like LinkedIn. Okay. The next step is start getting regularly on creating content. And so you really want to post once per day. The reason why you want to post once per day is it helps you with clarity of thinking about yourself, and you have a fast feedback loop. And the formula to posting is this: is you just want to follow what's called the ACES method. And so ACES stands for authority, connect, engage, and show. So what does that mean? Authority is anything that you like can offer a tip on expertise that you know. Connect just means you speak to the heart, the gut, or the funny bone. Engage means you're giving permission to your audience to participate and comment, because if you don't, they won't. And then show puts you in the light of showing that you practice what you preach, or that you drive results, as opposed to necessarily telling people how awesome you are. You show people how awesome you are. And it could be as simple as like a selfie, a behind the scenes before and after photo. So the perfect formula is this: is you lead with a hook, get people's attention, then you set the scene by hitting the heart, the gut, and the funny bone, which means you're able to describe people's problems and they can describe it themselves, because if you can't do that, you won't get their attention or build trust. Then you offer advice or a tip. Then you ask other people to participate. And then your image or your poll or your carousel or your video should be showing them that you practice what you preach. And if you do that every single time, I guarantee you, you'll have a winning post. And if you stay consistent with it over time, people will get to know you, they will get to like you, and they'll begin to trust you. Just by you simply putting out your vibe, you'll attract your tribe. And it's as simple as that. And those would be the steps that I would do. And basically, I just look at it this list, that's a week. Follow those people for the next 30 days, rewrite it to summarize it.
Mhm.
At the end of that, You want to comment to get practice with commenting. So same formula as what commenting is, creating content at the same time, and you're building relationships much better than sliding into the DMs or doing any kind of pitch slapping. And the last step is start practicing your craft of writing and sharing. And so you want to do a post per day following the ACES method. And this will be something that you do forever. It's an evergreen strategy that compounds and gets better over time. You get better, your audience grows, your messaging compounds over time. The output is you get followers and build community.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's a systematic work, not just one day per month or per week. It's day by day strategy.
Totally. And for some people who are really busy, that's an issue. That's why we created our service, right? Automation Wolf, where we help busy CEOs and founders create all of their snackable content in an hour and a half. And so we just do it a really efficient way. We'll meet with them like this, the way you're doing this meeting right here, before 1 hour on Zoom. We'll record them and interview them. And the output is we'll slice and dice the videos. We'll create the copy. We send it to them for approval so they can put their final touches on it. And then we syndicate it. So there's always ways to do it faster. But if you're starting out and you don't have budget and you have more time, that's a great way of going about doing it. If you have more budget than you have time, because most of the time the obstacle that people need to solve if you're really busy is actually time. They care less about ROI because they're already successful. Like they make money. Things are good. What they can't do is time, which is a non-renewable resource. So they care about ROT, return on time. And the higher up you go in the chain of command, the more important ROT is to you than ROI, because you can always make more money. That's not the issue. You could always find more leverage. The thing you're finding a hard time getting leverage on is your time. And so that's the thing you have to protect the most. And so as you get there, eventually you need to hire people like us who help you do some of the tedious things that are not necessary. However, you still need to participate. You can't have a ghostwriter 100% take it over. You still need to collaborate with someone and someone to hold you accountable and to coach you through those sessions privately to get the best out of you. Because if you work in a vacuum, you're never going to be as good as you do with a coach, right? And so that's why our service works so well for so many busy, CEOs and founders. And it also helps them become media trained, a lean, mean soundbite machine, which means they're a more effective communicator, which means everything in their business gets better if you're a more effective communicator. So that's sort of the process around it, but the journey is still the same. We can just fast track that for some people, but it's the same. It's the same steps.
I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned that content publishing should be consistent. And in your experience, how consistent should it be? Once a day or?
Yeah, once a day. It's kind of like the old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, a post per day, builds demand for you and your personal brand and a moat around your career and will drive whatever the thing it is that you're talking about today. So I always look at it as two things. So everybody needs to have a personal brand and see themselves as a micro mini celebrity or a micro media company today. That is a non-negotiable. Like if you want to have a career in today's marketplace in the future and you don't see yourself as having that, you're missing the boat, right? It doesn't matter whether you're a specialist or whether you're the CEO. This is for everybody. The sooner people realize that, the sooner, and they do it already. They already do it in little ways, but they just don't do it in a professional way most of the time. Like you'll see people on Instagram or Facebook, but they're not taking care and control of their full career. So you have to do that in the consistency, one post per day. The most important thing that it actually does, though, is the real benefit for it is it clarifies your thinking. It makes you smarter. When you're forced to writing is thinking, and rewriting and clarifying it, that you become just a better human being, period. And so it's really, really important to, and if you do it from the lens of that, it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about the audience that you're trying to move forward, right? And be helpful for, and you have to think of things like, what do I wish I'd known, and lead with empathy, where it's like, hey, I had in the past struggled with blank and blank, and I wanted blank. So here was my fear, here was my frustration. This is what I wanted and what my aspiration was. And by putting it out there, some people are going to go, oh, I'm struggling with that too. It makes you look human because you led with like that you struggled with something that is human. And then instead of telling people what to do, you say, here are some things I tried. This one didn't work. This one didn't work, but this one did. Maybe it would work for you. who else has also struggled with this? Share your best tip below. And then it becomes a conversation, right? And then you become very likable. But if you get up and you're like, hey, you should go do this because I'm amazing and look at me and my duck lips, it's not going to work so well, right? You're going to come off as a douchebag and nobody's going to want to work with you or like you. And there are some people who get away with it because they already have big audiences. You know, if I'm Kim Kardashian and I'm like, say hi, of course they're still going to get like 400,000, you know, reshares or retweets, but for everybody else it's not. You have to do something more. And so lead with being human. It comes back to that ACES method again, right? Authority, like in the post, do you have an authority piece, a connection piece, an engagement piece, and a show piece? Then you've locked it down. That's your framework and your filter, and you can say yes or no. And if not, you got to go back and rewrite and work it. Now, obviously you get faster at doing these things as you go. And then the order always is the same: hook, lead with empathy, share how you solve the particular problem, open it up for discussion, you know, and then include some sort of media that is visual at the end of the day that represents a sneak peek behind the scenes of that you practice what you preach. You do that, you're good.
I love how you put it into words and how you highlighted that, because we can see from our practice, from our experience, that people who are sincere, who think more about their audience, and they don't want to just promote their company or sell their product.
Yeah.
They're the most successful people on LinkedIn.
It totally, and it takes time. So everybody always sees sometimes these successes, but what they don't always often look at is that it's been 5 or 10 or 15 years in the making. And the real issue is people's time horizons are not long enough. And so this is why, but there is a big movement to this. So people are moving away in marketing in general from like the terminology of inbound and outbound. And it's not that outbound and inbound doesn't work. It's the intent behind it. So inbound and outbound is always looking for people who are in market, right? And their time horizons of success are usually very short, quarterly, maybe annually with goals. And it's always with goals for themselves. What's in it for me? Where's my leads? Where's my revenue, my sales, right? And so when you do that and you lead with that intention, it comes across in the wrong way and you make the wrong decisions that are short-sighted. It gives you what's called commission breath, right? And everybody knows and everybody's turned off with it. But what people are realizing in the movement is towards terminology called demand gen. And demand gen is slightly different. Demand gen is like, hey, I'm going to speak to the whole marketplace and add value. And my time horizons is going to be very long, and I'm going to look at trends instead. And the output that I'm looking for is community and trust. And I'm going to measure those things instead of leads and sales. And when you do that, like the reality is when you have, you know, trust and built community within a marketplace, the byproduct is you get leads and sales. You become the #1 go-to resource before everybody else, which actually makes you preemptive. So then you can have an ugly website. You don't need a funnel. You don't need a sales team. If you have salespeople, they can suck at sales and close deals because you already pre-did the work in advance. Now, the challenge is this works like compound interest. And so the problem is people don't actually follow these universal laws at the end of the day. And this is why Einstein said, you know, those that understand compound interest earn it, and those that do not pay it. And basically, what's the #1 factor in compound interest to work? It is time, which just means people's time horizons are too short. And so what they're doing is they have unrealistic expectations of growth too early on. And so they need to have longer time periods to see the growth. But if you look at compound interest, it's not very exciting the first few years. And then as you add time, it gets more and more exciting because it starts to compound. And if you just put it in a calculator and you go, would I rather have a penny that doubles every day for 30 days? Or would I rather have $1 million? Which one would you choose? And you will see right away, right, that there's a big difference. And it doesn't look very exciting the first 27 days. And then the last 3 days, boom, massive growth. And so that's sort of what's happening. But people are confused. And because we're addicted to snackable content, even though we secretly crave long form content, we're confused about how long it takes. And so even with the short form content, these are really, really important things to do, but there's ways of going faster if you can insert long form content to the process as well too. And that's why I have a 3-pillar system that's called short form, controlled form, and long form. And so the short form's in that snackable content, but it takes forever for people to consume enough of it to do that. If you want to fast track them to binge watching you or consuming more of you to fast track that trust, then you need things like a YouTube channel or a podcast or a regular webinar or a community and ecosystem you can put them into, like a Slack group or Circle community or a Mighty Networks community, or insert whatever, so that you can have more interactions. And all you're trying to do is actually serve a rule that's actually been qualified a long time ago in a book called Oversubscribed from Daniel Priestley, which is called the 7, 11, and 4 rule, which means if you want to move you and your brand from stranger to strategic advisor, people need to consume 7 hours of you and your brand, have 11 interactions in 4 different locations. And as long as you hit that and nail that, then you're a strategic advisor. When you're a strategic advisor, you now have positioning. You've now moved yourself from the red ocean to the blue ocean. You are now preemptive over all your other competitors, even if your marketing and everything else sucks. Even if your services are not even as good as someone else's, because they see you as that strategic advisor, you literally have a license to print money. You become the Oprah Winfrey's, the Joe Rogans of the world, the Tim Ferrisses of the world, right? You know, but that didn't happen overnight. Yes, there's ways to fast track it, but that's the process at the end of the day. And the only way to build that trust equals time.
Thank you for watching us. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comment or DM us here on LinkedIn. Have a nice holidays, and don't forget to subscribe and follow our pages and Matthew Hunt as well.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Matthew, so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Bye-bye.
me. Bye-bye.